Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. Well, that marriage didn't last long. Hot and heavy, that Elon and Trump marriage, it's over. I don't know if you've been watching. It's fresh. Elon criticized the big, beautiful bill. Trump came out and said, look, Elon was wearing thin. I canceled the electric car mandates, and he went crazy. and Elon fires back. Trump is in the Epstein files. That's why they weren't released. I mean, talk about going down in flames. That's pretty fucking amazing. When I first started watching this yesterday, or day before yesterday, or when Elon was criticizing the big, beautiful bill, I was thinking, oh, this is good cop, bad cop, Because I was spinning myself into the romance. I can be a little bit romantic. I was really hoping that Trump and Elon were actually getting along. I told myself stories that, that maybe Trump was the father that Elon never had, and blah, 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 blah. But now, just in hindsight, it's like smelling salts. Whoa, brought to reality. And then the other version that I was denying as I was watching was that Elon was kind of getting annoying. You know what I mean? Because there's that aspect too, where you're like, you invite your friend along, but then he's just all of a sudden always there. He's at like all your birthday parties, everywhere you go, he's there. And you can't really say, no, don't come along, because you like him and he's your friend. But then he starts telling you what to do a little bit too much. You're like, hey, okay, all right, thanks. I didn't ask for your opinion on this thing, by the way. And then at a certain point, and that now with this new revelation, you can see that Trump commercial where Trump bought a couple of Teslas and put them in front of the White House. It actually starts to look kind of sad for Elon because, just like Trump said in his tweet today, he said, look, I told him all along I was cutting these EV mandates, and then it just looks like this sad story where kind of like Elon thought that maybe by really just sticking around Trump that he could influence Trump, to give him some things. But what's the good news here? Well, I think I just told you. Trump can't be bought. I've been saying that for a long time. People say, he took money from Adelson. He took money from this person. He took money for that person. He took money from Elon. Lots. And guess what? He still did things the way he said he was going to do it. Now, you can disagree with that. You can agree with him or disagree with whatever. But this notion that Trump bends the knee or bows or simply caves to anybody, especially just because they have money, that's been, make the gravestone. That idea is gone. This is kind of good news. It's kind of good news. And I have a tendency to spin things in a positive way. Sue me. I don't care. But first of all, the narrative that the left's been trying to use, that the mainstream's been trying to use of the billionaires club, and it's a one big club and you're not in it. And, it's just this myth that you hear a lot, and it's fun to think of. It's fun to imagine that it's all just this secret cabal of billionaires, and as if they all have the exact same interests, and they get into a room and they do some satanic ritual, and then they all just come out and they're all in full agreement because they all are tied by Satan. And when the real story is that they're people with egos, with fragile egos. The thing you should know already about super ambitious people is that they're not like you and they're not like your neighbors. They've got this drive, and who knows what it is. It's hard to analyze it as being healthy. I need to have my name on thousands of stores across the country. I need to plant my name on Mars. I need to put my name on top of a big tower. I need to have 5 game shows. I need to be on TV all the time. No matter how much you like Trump or like Elon, and I'm not saying these are fatal flaws, but they certainly are things that you have to take in consideration, that these aren't, I don't know. I'm not going to say that these traits are unhealthy, but they're preferences that don't fit into most people's lives. Most of us don't have this need. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people have the desire to have their name up in lights and everywhere around, and they just can't do it. There's probably a big segment of the population that would like that but can't figure it out, But I think more people are just like, they simply don't want it. They simply don't have a desire. They're simply satisfied enough with life and their place within it to not need to be the president, to not need to own 25 companies, to not fly to Mars, to not run beauty pageants, to not, own 75 Chipotle outlets. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's interesting. And I was just about ready to make a recording trying to spin this whole new era into good cop, bad cop, because I thought that might be what it was. I thought that they were playing good cop, bad cop for a second. And I thought that would be genius if that was true. And it would have been. If they could have kept things together and played good cop, get bad cop, where Trump had to say big, beautiful bill and shook hands with Lindsey Graham and had to make friends with all the Republicans because he's kind of in that stupid fucking position where he's reliant on Republican votes to get things done. So he has to grease palms where Elon doesn't. Elon can be ruthless, with Republicans. Trump has to get along. So I thought that maybe was what they're doing, but no. Trump's in the Epstein files. You know how I think, who's in the Epstein files? My friend, my former friend, Gwen Stefani. She's in it. She was on that plane. Did she do anything evil? No. Did most of those people? No. It's so stupid. I don't know. Maybe Trump did something evil. He could have. He could have rubbed elbows with some younger girls. He could have been trapped by Elon or trapped by Epstein. I could have been trapped by Epstein. It could happen. You can get catfished. You can get catfished if you think you're all tough or whatever, and you think that you're the strongest person in the world and you have perfect morals. Have some few drinks. Have some girl come up to you at a party and say she's 25. You know what I mean? Looks 25. How the fuck do you know? Turns out she's 17. That could happen. That's how they run that operation. That's the point of it. That is the point of it. The point of it is to trap people into those things. That Matt Gaetz thing, that was the point of it, to get people in there. I think that's the point of Diddy. That's the point of Epstein. And it doesn't work on everybody, but it works probably better on people who are willing to walk the line. If you're willing to go to the party, if you're willing to take, to drink too much, I don't know. It's less likely with Trump because he doesn't drink. He doesn't drink and do drugs. So my feeling is that Trump's entries into the Epstein files is that he was at events with Epstein, and but I doubt it goes much deeper than that. But who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I can't do anything about it anyway. But yeah, interesting. The narrative that Elon controls Trump has evaporated. Now, what's going to happen? They're obviously fighting. It's going down in flames. This is not going to be an amicable divorce. Those who predicted this, I had it in my mind. It wasn't like the people that predicted a disaster were wrong. When I heard of people doing that, I was thinking, yeah, that's very plausible, very plausible. But I was holding out because I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe that things would go right. I feel like I wanted to will it into existence, because I like that. It's a better storyline. It's better. It's better to have two businessmen taking the high road, you know what I mean, and creating a freer market, less regulations, is a smaller government, creating a smaller government, In this scenario, in this particular scenario right now, I think Trump comes out looking better. If you're a little guy and you're looking at the two, if I think Trump looks better, because Trump still looks like he's looking out for the little guy, because Trump says, I'm getting rid of the EV mandates, from which, and did you see Trump's follow-up tweet? The quickest way to save a bunch of money is to get rid of the subsidies for Elon. Wow. That's a killer one, because that totally kneecaps Elon. Totally does. It makes it look like Elon was in it for the favors. It doesn't make Elon look like a champion of the little guy. It makes Elon look like a champion for Elon, looking for favors and handouts for Elon and Elon's companies. Whereas Trump's side of this issue is that, no, you won't be forced into buying an electric vehicle. We're not going to do that. We're not going to incentivize this scam known as all electric everything, And I'm not saying it's a total scam. Like, solar still seems like a really good thing, but not when you have to equate that you got to, that it's not actually a super green thing to create solar panels and batteries, And driving around an electric car is still burning. It's still part of that process. And at least with a gas engine, as you go, your car gets lighter as it burns the fuel. You're carrying around a battery weighs exactly the same whether it's charged or not. And they're fucking heavy. Tires, blah, blah, blah. Let's not get into it. But, yeah, in this particular fight, when I'm scoring it, Elon looks more dirty than Trump, because it looks like now from the outside, it looks like Trump or Elon was looking for favors, that he was in there constantly hovering over Trump, coming to every single event. Elon was wearing thin. That's what Trump said. Ouch. Boy, does that hurt. Oh, can you imagine? You think you're best friends with somebody and then they come out and say, yeah, he was wearing thin. That guy would never leave me alone. Ooh, that unrequited love, that imbalance. Yeah, he liked me more than I liked him. Oh, ow, that hurts. You know what I mean? That's got to hurt for Elon. I'd feel bad for him, but it is pretty apparent now, It is. It gives more ammunition. This kerfuffle gives more ammunition to people who don't like Elon than it does ammunition to those who don't like Trump. Because Trump is coming out looking like what you see is what you get, whereas Elon is coming out of this looking more like, I think you might have misrepresented yourself, pal. Because he represented himself as, I bought Twitter because free speech is so important. And his detractors were saying, no, you bought Twitter because you want to have undue influence. Well, those people just got a mark. They got a piece of evidence supporting their argument, right? That he got Twitter so that he could get in with the president, and get influence. And so you could get favors. And so you could get contracts. You know what I mean? But all that kind of came crashing down. I don't know how Elon, I think this all works against him. I'm just thinking out loud. Try to think of something. What in this scenario works out better for Elon? Now, there's a couple of things where, of course, a lot of people are going to agree with Elon. and they should probably, is this to keep your eye on the spending bill. I actually don't really know about that because I largely see, I suspected years ago, before Trump was ever political, I think I read The Art of the Deal. I think I read it before he was political. Well, not before he was political, because he wanted to run for, he was thinking about being, he joined the same party as Ross Perot, that Ross Perot started, what would they call it, the Reform Party. And I voted for Ross Perot. So I had my eye on Donald Trump too. But one of the early things when I was reading about Trump was that, and this is a great story, is that in the 80s, he was over $1 billion in debt. So he was $1 billion poorer than a guy with no dollars in his pocket, right? That's really, really poor. You know what I mean? The homeless guy with $5 in his pocket at that point was $5 richer. Well, $1,005,000,000 richer than Donald Trump in the 80s. But yet, Donald Trump with his ambition and his blah, 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 put everything together and put ways out to convince banks to give him money to do this and develop this property and develop that property. And with chutzpah, and he turned that deficit into what he is today. So I think that Donald Trump understands something. He has answered the question in a similar way that I have as far as money. Whenever there's a concept, I try to trace it back and go, okay, but this goes to this. Who does the U.S. owe money to? The U.S. owns trillions of dollars in debt. Okay, to who? To China? And we have to pay China why? To who? To the Bank of London, and we have to pay that back why? The why is because the bank will use money against us and fund somebody else to maybe destroy us. That's really when it comes down to it. There's no reason to pay it back except for the people with the money also can buy power to fuck you up and come get it. But I'm thinking, who's got the power to come get the money from the United States? And if they decide that the punishment for not paying them back is that they won't loan us any more money, well, that's a good thing because we shouldn't be borrowing money. The best thing that ever happened to me in my life was that I never earned credit. The first time I was offered credit, I fucked it up, right? I got a card. First time I got a job, I got a card, a Sears card, and I bought a TV that I still own, by the way. It's downstairs in a trunk. But I bought a TV for like $600, right? And I didn't make my payments on time. So I fucked my credit up right out of the gate. But that didn't stop me because I realized I could live my life without credit. And then I just turned off the idea of ever having credit, and I figured out how to maneuver through life without having credit, because I fucked it up. And it was great because you can buy a house without credit. You just have to structure deals the right way. Anyway, not having credit kept me out of debt, right? I was taught to not be in debt anyway, so that was helpful. But I've never had debt in my life because debt is what makes you a slave. So if debtors won't lend you money, that option's off the table. And I really do see that a lot of times. And I sometimes wonder if Trump just gets that the fiat currency is fictional. It's immoral. It's immoral that one group of people can invent value. It might have been moral when it was gold, but that's long since been gone. People were not trading gold with one another. The dollars are fiction. Most currencies around the world are completely fiction. They're not built on, it's just built on confidence. It's a shell game. It's retarded. It makes no sense. I posted a meme of two aliens arguing about U.S. debt that reflects this point of view that I've kind of had for a long time, which is, I don't get it. Why do we think that we need to pay people back? This whole idea that the U.S. is in debt is in a way just validating that the system is moral and it works. You know, like even the person that's, oh, we have to pay back the debt. It's just like, that sounds like somebody that actually works for the debtors. Because if you don't work for the debtors, then you go, look, your fucking scheme is retarded. Okay, you invented this. You pretend that you have money. You invent money, then you lend it to me, and then you charge me interest. Yeah, fuck you. I think that's what Trump thinks. I think that's why he's careless about the debt, because he understands that it's, I don't know if he thinks this, and I don't consider myself to be an intelligent or smart person at all. I only can measure myself against other people, and I don't see myself as being quite as dumb as most of the people that I know, you know, which by no means I'm smart. But yeah, this idea that we should somehow validate, I guess what they call it, fractional reserve banking, by even acknowledging the debt. The best thing that could happen is if the U.S.'s credit score went to zero, you know? But guess what? That's not going to happen. I think that's what Trump understands. It's not going to happen because if it does, if they don't lend you, I've been telling this people for a long time when they bitch and moan, I can't buy a house, I can't do this, I can't do that because the bank won't lend me money. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? The bank wants to lend you so much they have to because they want that interest payment. All you got to do is convince them that you'll make the payments and they'll lend you money. If they don't lend you money, they don't make money. Okay? It's like I said years ago. Hey, everybody, stop paying your cable bill. If you stop paying your cable bill, the cable won't get shut off. Because they still want to control you. They still want to influence you. Okay? Coca-Cola will pay your cable bill for you. They'll do it. I promise. But everybody has to do it at once, you know? Just say, I'm not going to pay for this anymore. Anyway, it's weird. I understand more about collective bargaining than most collectivists. And I'm an individualist. But anyway, yeah. Meandering. Trump and Elon. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. But I don't know. Am I just spinning it? But I feel like that this is going to be a real... If the common man watches closely, they're going to like Trump's position better than Elon's. They just are. Because it's going to be the story, if you look at it, is Trump doesn't do what other people tell him to do. You can extrapolate this behavior with Elon and Trump, with Adelson and Trump, with any of these fucking billionaires that were at his inauguration. You can just port that right over. Is he going to do what Bezos says? No. Is he going to do what Mark Zuckerberg says? No. You know? Is he going to do what Witkoff says? No. Is he going to do what's his name? The gay money guy? Scott Bessent says? No. You know? Is he going to do what XYZ senator says? No. Is he going to do what Putin says? I mean, this is no guarantee we're not going to get in a shitload of trouble, but that's not all Trump's fault. Trouble's always around the corner no matter what. But yeah, the argument that Trump plays second fiddle or just does what he's told is doomed. Now, the interesting spin should Elon and if Elon now gets with the rest of tech, you know, and this is going to be a real test because Elon owns Twitter now. He could turn that censorship right back on. He could say, oh, that plan didn't work. Boom. He could just sell it, get rid of it. You know, that could happen. And he and all the tech bros and all the tech buddies could just all turn on Trump. And then Trump's, you know, no longer has the ear of Zuckerberg and all that kind of stuff. Now it's going to be all back to UFC. You know, look, here's the other thing too. Elon's going to feel this too, Because if he doesn't play his cards right, all the conservatives and the MAGA people that were decide, no, we're gonna buy a Tesla. You know, all those memes about electric cars being for pussies, that's gonna all come right back. So I don't know. I think Elon has more to lose in this thing than Trump. But like I was just gonna say, if these guys really want to spin it and they really want to destroy Trump, one possible angle they could take is, I know Elon's starting it with the Epstein thing, but if they want to say that the whole reason why Trump became president is because he had to control the Epstein files. That's the only reason. It's far-fetched, but boy, there are enough people out there that hate Trump that they might fall for it. Anyway, interesting motherfucking times, that's for sure. I'm glad I don't have to. I feel a little bit of relief that I've spent too much time lawyering for Elon, and quite frankly for Trump. Let's be honest. I don't know why I feel obliged to. That's my nature anyway. I'm a defender. People get attacked, I defend them. But when they become the attacker, it's different. I feel a little bit left off the hook. And now both of them attacking each other. You know what I mean? That's a different game right now. Anyway, that's my hot take on Trump versus Elon 2025. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally waste